Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well. Today I get to talk about one of my all-time favorite subjects, art supplies. And in this particular case, the art supplies that I think would make absolutely great gifts. Now the list that I've compiled, I have tried to cover a broad variety of different types of products for a variety of different types of artists. So whether you are looking for someone that's more at a student level, you know, someone that is just beginning to build their art supplies collection, all the way up to professional artists, hopefully there is something interesting in this list for you. Now for this list I have some very specific recommendations as well as just some more gift idea concepts that hopefully will help you out this year. The first product on my list I feel like is possibly the most universal regardless of the type of artist that you're possibly looking at getting a gift for, and that is a nice hardbound sketchbook. I feel like most artists really appreciate a nice sketchbook, but it's also something that they don't necessarily want to spend their own money on, and therefore that is why it makes an excellent gift. There are obviously quite a lot of options and varieties of hardbound sketchbooks, so some of my personal favorites and recommendations would be the Leuchtturm 1917. That is what this one is. These come in a ton of different sizes and colors, which is really awesome because most artist quality sketchbooks tend to just come in boring old black, which does look nice and classic, but sometimes it's nice to have something a little more colorful. But this is definitely more along the lines of a traditional sketchbook, not very thick paper. The Moleskine sketchbooks are also really nice. They also come in a variety of different sizes and types. They make watercolor specific ones, which is really awesome if you have someone that's mostly using watercolor in their sketches or someone that likes to use more mixed media work in their sketchbook. I also really like these Strathmore tone books. These are softcover bound sketchbooks, but they have this really nice matte soft touch finish. This one is the toned gray one. It also comes toned tan. They don't come in as many variety, but it is a more unique type of sketchbook, so wanted to put that in here as well. Now because I personally am someone that does enjoy using watercolor in their work, more watercolor specific sketchbooks that I would recommend would be the Strathmore 400 series hardbound book. It's over on my shelf, so I'm just going to insert a picture here. That one I also think comes in a variety of sizes. It is one of the only hardbound journal type of books that actually has full 300 GSM watercolor paper in it. A lot of the time the sketchbooks that companies make are closer to the mixed media level of paper thickness, but that stuff is really nice and thick and lovely to use. There are also these Stillman and Byrne sketchbooks. Again, they come in a variety of different types, almost too many types. Like, I would highly recommend you go on their website and read up about the different series lines because there are quite a lot. So the two that I have are the mixed media variety, which are almost to that 300 gram paper. They are 270, and again, they come in a variety of different types, sizes, soft cover, hardcover, lots of options for you to possibly look through. And the last specific sketchbook recommendation that I have is not quite a hardbound sketchbook, but I love this thing so much that I just had to include it. It is the Indigo Art Papers Wiropad. So like the name suggests, it is more spiral bound as opposed to like fully hardcover or softcover bound, but this stuff is absolutely gorgeous. It is handmade watercolor paper. It has these unfinished edges which are a really cool look. I actually have some artwork in here, but one of the really also cool things about this is in between each sheet of paper there is like a separation tracing paper type of layer to protect the artwork, so you could use both sides of this paper without any issue. This is the artwork that I have in there, and it's just absolutely gorgeous paper. It is 100% cotton. It has this really nice texture, and I personally like the look of the like unfinished edge. It's just a really cool look, and it's not something that I have anything else like in my collection, so this stuff is absolutely awesome to use. So just had to include this in here as well, even though it is more along the lines of like just a paper pad. I think a lot of people would still enjoy using this more along the lines of a sketchbook. Another category of products that I feel would be pretty universally appealing across quite a range of different types of artists as possible gifts would be some nice art supplies storage. I feel like most artists take quite a lot of pride in keeping their art supplies organized, and this could also be something that is more of like a combination gift. Maybe you're looking at getting someone a nice new set of colored pencils and want to also get them a nice pencil case to be able to hold all of them in. I really like the elasticated book types of pencil cases where you can just slide the pencil markers, whatever it might be, into their own unique section or sections of 3 or so you really have a specific spot for every individual color and therefore can very easily find every individual color when you want to. There's also some really nice wooden drawer options available now that might be your preferred method for holding your colored pencils and such instead of a pencil case. More cubbyhole type of organizers are also really nice for paint tubes and markers, pencils, all of that kind of stuff. Also along the lines of paint tube storage, Michaels makes these really cool wire spin containers for the 2 fluid ounce type of bottles. The typical like just craft paint bottles. So this is pretty cool. You know, you get to see all of your paint colors, keeps them nice and organized, is fun to look at, and is also really functional. If you'd be more interested in something along the lines of a watercolor or gouache tube storage, there is this organizer. Now, this is actually a product that I make, which, sorry in advance for the shameless self-promotion that's going on, but unfortunately the entire reason that this was ever developed was because there was nothing of its kind available. So if somebody else made something like that, I would totally be promoting it right now, but unfortunately there isn't. So this storage unit is a fully 3D printed organizer that was specifically designed to hold a variety of different types of watercolor and gouache tubes. It's pretty sleek. I tried to have it not take up more room than necessary, and it also keeps your paint tubes perfectly organized. The shelves are slanted so they will never fall out, and it's also really easy to slide them back into place. If you have your watercolor paint in pans as opposed to tubes, I also developed this. This is called a palette tower. It is a modular system, again, specifically designed to hold full and half pans of watercolors. Now this is somewhat my prototype, but it's the only one that I have available right now because they're completely sold out. Hopefully by the time that this video goes up there will be more available in my store, and I'm constantly trying to restock them, but this is my personal one. So they have these custom pour painted lids. I also make DIY kits, so they have the plain white plastic lids, but it is a modular system that the starter kit comes with a lid and 2 layers. So in my own personal tower right now, all I have is my Roman Smaltz watercolor in the top there. I also make a Kuretake pan specific tower because there was a lot of demand online for a good storage solution for those particular pans since they are such an unusual size. And if you're looking at a smaller option, there is the travel palettes. These are one-of-a-kind pour-painted lid metal tins. There is again also DIY kits if you would prefer to customize it yourself, but inside there are 3D printed parts that is a mixing dish and a 15-well palette. Again, so sorry for the self-promotion, it feels super weird, but I wanted to try and include a variety of different supply storage, and unfortunately there are not a lot of great options in the watercolor department. Like I mentioned, all of the products that I now make have been because I designed them for myself because there weren't any other options, and there was such demand online for that type of product that I then started to create more of them. Now let's get into some super fun and exciting specific art supplies. I wanted to start off with sort of like a rapid fire round of great under $25-ish, I think most of these are. Possibly great stocking stuffers or just like little additions to possibly larger art supplies gifts. Some of these I have mentioned in past gift guides and just constantly talk about on my channel, so don't want to spend too long on them, but there are just some products that are just so good that they have to be mentioned again. The first one is the Pentel Brush Pen. I don't think I have heard anyone not like this type of pen. This particular one is a limited edition one, so it is in this super cool blue barrel look. There were quite a few limited edition ones that they came out with. Not sure how easily they will be found now, but they might have come out with more new limited edition ones. This is the exact same pen as the standard black one, it just has this colorful new outer casing. But this is seriously one of the best pens ever made, and I believe these are under $10 years now. This is definitely one of those all-star art supplies that I think a large variety of artists would enjoy using. Next is the Tombow Mono Zero Eraser. It is a really tiny pen style, like retractable type of eraser. It is 2.3 millimeters in diameter. So yes, it's a really tiny eraser. There's absolutely nothing else like it. It is fantastic for erasing small details, adding fine details into artwork. It's just another one of those staple products that I had to mention again. Another staple product is the Smudgeguard. This one is the actual original Smudgeguard brand one that is the 2 fingers, which is my personal preference. They also make one that is just the pinky. I have a couple of these now around my studio and I absolutely love them. I cannot work without them now. Not only are these fantastic for digital art, they're also great for traditional art. So whether you are using an iPad or some other type of tablet to draw, it eases the resistance of your hand gliding across the screen to make it really nice and smooth. And in the traditional art sense, it just stops your hand from smudging stuff all over the place. The Smudgeguard specific one, I believe, comes in a variety of colors. It definitely comes in the various finger types, and it also comes in a ton of different sizes, which is awesome because I have very tiny hands, and so I'm very grateful that these come small enough to fit my hands perfectly. Now this is actually a new discovery for this year that I'm really excited to talk about. It is the Pentel Orentz pencils. They come in a variety of different lead sizes. This one is the 0.2 millimeter one. I also have the 0.3 and 0.7. I'm pretty sure I have a 0.52 somewhere, but that's somewhere else in my studio. And I'm sure you're probably thinking, you know, what is so mind-blowing about a mechanical pencil? Well, this particular type of mechanical pencil has this lead system that once you advance the lead to the end of the barrel, you know, like you would for a normal mechanical pencil, it will just keep advancing itself. So you never need to like worry about clicking it down every 5 seconds when you're drawing. It's just so convenient. That constant clicking of the lead down on mechanical pencils is one of my biggest annoyances with using mechanical pencils. Even though they give awesome, precise, fine lines, I can't stand the constant clicking. I always forget to do it. The lead inevitably runs out and you're all of a sudden scratching the page with the tip of the pencil. So these are an awesome, inexpensive, and incredibly unique pencil. Also along the lines of pens, I think a lot of artists would really appreciate getting a nice quality writing utensil. Whether that be one of these dip pens. This particular one has a resin handle that looks really awesome. It's like this blue galaxy. Of course, it is me. It's like see-through. It's just a really cool looking pen. It's on the heavier side, so it feels really nice to use. These come in a ton of different colors. You can get a lot of dip pens in a lot of different really cool colors. Glass pens are also really cool looking, and they tend to be always nicely boxed, so they end up making great gifts. This year, one of my favorite finds was the Lamy Safari pen. This is a fountain pen, so most would consider this along more of the lines of sort of stationary and, you know, traditional writing utensil, but these things are also really nice to sketch with. I actually have a couple of them. You can get the Lamy ink cartridges for these, or you can always get a refillable cartridge. So if you have someone that is looking at needing more of a waterproof type of ink, it's very easy to implement with these pens. And the last thing on my rapid fire under 25 list would be the Palomino Blackwing pencils. Now hear me out, because I'm sure a whole bunch of people just started shivering in their boots when I mentioned these pencils. I do know these are incredibly expensive pencils, and I did sort of slip these into the under 25 range, and that's because you can normally quite easily find these pencils available individually if you are looking to, you know, get somebody a couple of them to try out as a gift. Now these are one of the most infamous type of artist pencils that I feel like most artists at one point or another have heard of these pencils and are very intrigued by them. But I also know that there's a ton of artists that do not want to spend the money on these pencils, even though they would absolutely love to try them out at some point, which is ultimately why I put them in this gift guide. There are 3 different kinds. There is the 602, which is the original one, the pearl, and the third one that I absolutely cannot remember the name of. Yes, if you can find these pencils individually, getting somebody a couple of them, or maybe one of each kind, I think would be very highly appreciated if this is a type of pencil that they're interested in. Now let's get into some of the larger type of art supplies gifts. The first thing is a bit more of a concept that I just sort of wanted to mention somewhere in the video, is that if you're someone that is really struggling with possibly finding art supplies for the artist that you're buying for, especially if you are buying for someone that is maybe more starting out their art supplies collection and is trying out a whole lot of different mediums or is interested in trying out new mediums, a ton of art supply stores now create these like starter kits, which most of the time are really decent. I know in Canada, Desserts does them now, Curry's has always done them, where they pre-bundle these various types of supplies in the different mediums. So there's like a watercolor starter kit that would give you some watercolor paint, some watercolor paper, you know, all of that kind of stuff in a bundle, which is really awesome that it's all bundled together. Obviously, you could sort of look at what they're offering in the bundle and maybe take that as inspiration for buying and creating your own sort of kit like that. But it's just something that I wanted to mention because I think that the bundles that these stores are creating are really cool, and a lot of the times, you know, it will take the stress away of making sure you possibly have all of the individual elements that could be useful for starting out in a new type of medium. The first specific larger item that I wanted to mention are the Posca pen sets. Now, I have mentioned these before in previous gift guides, but these are just one of those art supplies that, again, I think a ton of different types of artists would find a ton of use for. I personally use these around my studio a lot. Not only can you create artwork using these, but they're just super useful around the studio for writing on things. They're paint markers. They come in a lot of different colors. They also come in a variety of tip sizes. Molotow also makes a variety of paint markers that are also incredible, so just wanted to slip these in there pretty quick because, you know, they're really fun and colorful and it just looks really fun to play with, I guess, and I think would make a great gift for a lot of different artists. Something else that's pretty trendy that I think would interest a lot of different artists would be creating a pour paint kit. Now, I'm sure a variety of stores are already creating these pour paint kits, but they're really easy to put together yourselves, and I would highly recommend doing so because that means you're probably going to be getting a lot more product for your money. The first thing you're going to need for your kit is the paint itself. This is my all-time favorite paint to use for pour painting. It is the Michaels Craftsmart brand paint. This is just one of their multi-packs that you can get. There's like a ton of different types of multi-value packs that you can get, and they're incredibly inexpensive, which is why I would highly recommend you building this kit yourself because you can just get so much paint and such a variety of paint colors for so little, and it would just look incredible as a gift. Any really inexpensive craft paint that comes in these sort of cylindrical tubes works absolutely perfectly for pour painting. The next thing you're going to need is pouring medium. There's a lot of different brands that make pouring medium. They come in a variety of different bottle sizes. As far as I can tell, they all pretty much work equally as good, so as long as you've got something that is called pouring medium, you're gonna be good. The next thing you're going to need as part of your kit is some surfaces to paint on. Now, if you're putting this together in a kit sort of idea, I would highly recommend you get a pack of small canvases. If you have someone that's just starting out with pour painting, they're probably going to want to experiment with a lot of different color schemes, so having multiple options for them to paint on is a great start. Some of the more boring but practical things to include in the kit would be some plastic cups to actually mix the paint up in, some popsicle sticks so that you can actually mix the paint up. Some disposable gloves is always good for keeping, you know, mess to a minimum, and I'd also highly recommend some plastic or other sort of table covering to assist in the cleanup and just messiness of pouring. Something else that sort of ties into the pour painting kit idea, but I also think would make a great gift on their own, would be these folk art color shift paints. Now, I personally love using these all of the time in pour painting. They are one of the most unique paints I have ever seen. As the name would suggest, they are these hologram color shifting paints. They're absolutely beautiful. They come in a ton of different colors. I'm sure the camera is not going to do them justice. This one is like an emerald green that shifts gold. You have a purple with a blue shift, and this one is like a periwinkle color with a gold shift. So yes, just an incredibly unique type of paint that I think a lot of artists would have a ton of fun with. They're not that expensive and they're available individually, as I believe also available together in a set. Also along the line of incredibly unique paint sets are the Finetec watercolor sets. Now I'm going to go ahead and proclaim these the best metallic watercolor paints ever created. They come in so many colors in such a variety of set sizes. This one I believe is still the largest set that they make. But you can just see from this set the amount of colors that these come. They're all metallic, they're all incredibly beautiful and pigmented. There's just seriously nothing like these paints. I think there's something that a lot of different artists would really enjoy using. Here is one of the smaller sets. And because these are such a unique type of paint, I feel like it's probably a little less daunting than sort of, you know, looking at this mass chart of watercolor paints or whatever and trying to pick out specific colors. You know, they already come in sets, they also come individually. Yeah, those are just seriously some of the coolest paints around, so I had to include them in this gift guide as well. Also along the line of unique paint sets would be the infamous jelly gouache sets. Now there isn't really a specific brand. I feel like at this point pretty much all of the brands that have jelly gouache sets are pretty much all the same. They all seem to be universally loved across the board. But again, jelly gouache is just one of those really trendy products that is also really fun to use, that I feel like would appeal to a variety of artist ranges, whether you're a student or more professional. They're essentially sets of this type of gouache paint that is in these large jelly cups, so you get a ton of each color paint. The sets themselves come in a lot of different set sizes. They tend to be not that expensive, which again is really awesome, and you also get a ton of paint. So just all in all, they're always really colorful looking. They look like a lot of fun to use. They are a lot of fun to use, and therefore I think they would make an awesome gift. Also along the paint set vein of things would be the Arteza paint sets. Now Arteza as a whole, everything that I've tried from them I've been incredibly impressed by. They make an absolutely insane variety of products, so just in general Arteza might be a good place to possibly look at for possible gift ideas. But the paint sets in particular I have been incredibly blown away by, especially the gouache paint. That's actually what was in my little storage container earlier in this video. All of their paint sets again come in a lot of different types of paint, a lot of different set sizes, and so if you're looking at possibly getting a paint set for someone, Arteza might be a great option to look at. The next thing on my gift guide list is a bit of an idea but also a specific thing, and those would be the Watercolor Dot Charts that a lot of companies are coming out with now. The one that I have here is the Daniel Smith 238 set, so it is the 4 sheets. Essentially what these Watercolor Dot Charts are is a chart that has a dollop of actual paint for every single color or a certain amount of colors in that particular paint range. So this is the dot chart for the entirety of the Daniel Smith watercolor line. I know Winsor & Newton now makes one of these as well. So other than the fact that yes, for me, I did turn this into sort of a glorified swatch sheet. One, you get quite a lot of paint for each dollop of paint on this sheet. So I don't think you would have any issue actually using these dot sheets to create pieces of artwork. But regardless of that fact as a possible idea, you know, you could use these to create artwork. You obviously get a lot of different color options. These would possibly make great combination gifts with a gift card. So as a concept, you could get somebody one of these types of dot charts and also a gift card, so they could then try out all of the different colors in the range and then go out and buy the full-size tubes of whatever colors they like the most. The dot charts are always for professional paints, so you'd probably be looking at getting this for maybe a bit of an older artist, you know, someone that would appreciate the professional watercolors a little more. So not the most exciting option, but I figured if you were really stuck, somebody might appreciate this idea, so I wanted to mention it. Something that I've actually never put in one of my gift guides that I think always makes a good gift option, in fact I think I have actually received one of these as a gift, would be a tabletop easel, or just in general an easel. Lately I've been really loving this particular type of tabletop easel. It is one of the more box varieties, so this, you know, has the things that it opens up and props up, and because it is in box form it's really nice and sturdy, and while also still being nice and compact. This, of course, expands to be able to hold larger canvases, and it's just a really cool little thing. And just like I said, easels in general, I feel like nicer quality easels make great gifts that a lot of artists would probably appreciate. Another recent favorite of mine that I think would possibly make a great gift option would be a nice apron. Now I know that this is not the most exciting gift option, and I personally was never one to bother with an apron until recently. The ones that I have personally fallen in love with are the Under NY Sky ones. They make an absolutely insane amount of apron options for a variety of different applications. So they're not specifically necessarily artist aprons, but because they come in so many options, that's actually why I love them. I have a couple of different ones for two different uses. I have more of my lighter weight art one, and then more of a heavier duty one for my more, you know, workshop type of work. And they both have a ton of pockets, which is incredibly useful. They have a bunch of different strap configurations if, you know, the traditional ones around your neck or whatever bother you. Tons of different options for that. But for me, the absolute winner is that you can get them with the split in the bottom center. So it does not feel like you're wearing some like crazy sack over you. It's really easy to move around, and they're just really well-made aprons, and I would highly recommend them. The next things on my list are a little more art supplies adjacent. I'm sure there are a lot of people that are looking at gifts for artists that you don't necessarily want to buy them literal art supplies and are looking, I guess, for more creative gift options. And so in terms of ideas I have for those, I think diamond paintings are really cool. They're obviously really trendy, and there's just been such a crazy explosion in the diamond painting market that you probably could find an art option that would appeal to somebody. You can get them custom made. I actually have a custom one that I've been working on here and there, but I'm not sure if you would actually be able to get one custom made and actually be made in time to possibly give as a Christmas gift. But you definitely can get them custom made, and they look incredible. They're so cool. So that is one creative activity option. Something similar to the diamond painting idea are the new Lego art sets. Now these are a lot more limited. I think there's only like 4 options. There's definitely a Star Wars one and a Marvel one, so if you have someone that is really into one of those topics, this might be a great idea. But essentially they are diamond paintings but with Lego pieces. The artwork that these sets create look incredible, and I think a lot of artists would have tons of fun putting one of them together. On the literal puzzle end of things, Redbubble actually now manufactures puzzles, which is really cool. A ton of artists have Redbubble stores, so you possibly could get somebody's favorite artist's work in puzzle form to put together. The next thing on this list is possibly the most random, but it is one of my favorite finds in the last year or so, and I just had to include it. It is actually behind me right now. It is this IKEA pencil light. Ever since I saw one in an IKEA store, I became absolutely obsessed with it. It's just such a cool light. It's technically a children's light, but it is one of the only, if not only, art supplies related decor items that I have ever seen. It is one of my absolute favorite things in my studio, and I figured there would also be other artists out there that would probably appreciate this sort of strange gift idea. The last thing before we get into like my top gifts of the year is a bit more category based, and that would be art books. Now art books I feel like make fantastic gifts, especially art books that are more along the lines of inspirational versus educational. Nowadays there are so many art books that come out for all video games, movies, TV shows that you really can probably find an art book that someone would love. The Mandalorian art book comes out in a couple of weeks, I think. There are a ton of video game art books that have been coming out. One of my favorite art books that I've gotten in a really long time, this literally just came a couple of days ago, so this could be a great gift option if someone is also into this subject. But it is called My Neighbor Hayao Miyazaki. It is a compilation art book of a variety of artists' work, all based on Studio Ghibli movies, which I'm absolutely obsessed with. I know you all think I'm like a crazy Star Wars fan, which I am, but you would not believe how much more obsessed with Studio Ghibli I am. So this is a possible awesome option if you also have somebody that's obsessed with Studio Ghibli movies. There are really just a ton of awesome art book options available right now. And now onto my top art supplies gifts of the year. The first first one I have mentioned in past art supplies gift guides as one of the best gifts that you possibly can get art supplies wise, so I don't want to dawdle on it too long, but it is the iPad Pro. This one is the last generation 12.9 inch one that of course is in the most boring cover I could have on it right now. But seriously, any iPad that has the functionality of the Apple Pencil is one of the most powerful creative gifts you can get. I'm sure you don't need me to sell you on an iPad, but that's actually not really the main reason why I wanted to talk about this. Obviously the iPad and Apple Pencil combination is incredible, but as a recent addition to this, I have become absolutely obsessed with the paper-like screen protectors, which, you know, is an extraordinarily unexciting thing to try and show you. Now, this is actually the first screen protector that I have ever put on an electronics device in my life, so this is kind of a big deal. But I was just so intrigued by the concept of the paper-like screen protectors that I just had to try one out. I'm pretty sure a variety of companies now make these, but as the name would suggest, it is a screen protector that transforms the surface of your screen to something that feels way more natural and like you're drawing on paper. So if you're someone that is used to and or prefers drawing traditionally, you know, a sketchbook, pencil, that kind of thing, I think you will absolutely love the feel of this screen protector. The protectors themselves tend to not be incredibly expensive, so maybe you have someone that already has an iPad, so this could be a great accessory gift option, but I'm just really fully converted to this thing. I can't believe I like it so much, but I don't think I will ever go back to drawing on an iPad without one of these screen protectors. Now, an iPad Pro and Apple Pencil is really incredible, but for me, the ultimate art supply gift for 2020 is a 3D or resin printer. Now, I know this gift idea isn't for every artist, but you would probably be surprised how many artists would actually benefit and really enjoy this technology. Nowadays, you can get an absolutely incredible 3D printer for around $300. Same goes for resin printers, but we'll get onto those in a second. The entire technology behind 3D printing is just so incredibly useful. I personally have created an entire business basically revolving around 3D printed products. But outside of that, I have used the technology in so many ways in my work, both in the useful aspect as well as literally being a part of my artwork. Not only have I used a 3D printer to print art supplies storage and other useful objects like that, I have literally used the printer to print art supplies. I've printed everything from watercolor full and half pans. I absolutely never need to buy a watercolor pan again. I can just print them. I've printed paint palettes, brush holders, just so many things. But I also incorporated a lot into my artwork itself. This is one of the easier and smaller options, but we have a 3D printed Babu Frick. So if you have someone that is into more prop making and sculpture work, if you have someone that is into 3D modeling, you literally could have them be printing the 3D models that they create. There are just so many creative uses for a 3D printer that I just had to include it as my ultimate gift of the year. As far as resin printers go, if you have someone that's really into tabletop gaming or someone that you know would be really into making small figurines and that sort of vein of things, then resin printers are incredible for that kind of thing. You can very easily print those types of models on a normal 3D printer, but that application is really what resin printing is becoming known for. As far as my recommendation goes for 3D printers, it probably comes as no surprise that I'd recommend the Creality Ender 3 series. These machines are sort of the trifecta of printers. They have amazing print quality, they are extremely reasonably priced, and they are very popular, so if you run into an issue, it's incredibly easy to just Google an answer to your problem and find a solution. These are a lot of people's favorite 3D printers, even though they are also one of the most inexpensive. They come in a variety of versions now, but regardless, they are all still under $400 Canadian at normal price, and it's very common for these printers to be on some sort of sale, so you can get a really sweet deal on them. As far as resin printers go, I'm not as knowledgeable about them specifically, but there are a lot of great machine options out there. These are 3 of the most popular resin printers right now, and they are all around the $300 Canadian mark at full price, but again, these go on sale a lot, so you can very easily get them for less. There's endless amounts of information and reviews about all of these printers online, so if this is a gift option that interests you, it will be very easy to find out more information to narrow down the choice that will work best for you. And that is my entire gift guide for 2020. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope this video gave you some gift ideas. As always, I will have all of the products that I mentioned in this video as well as more recommendations in the description box. But thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you in my next video.